Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Todd Standing. I am the man who takes people out in the field and has me to live interact with or I'm with the Sasquatch. Don't take my word for it. Today's podcast, hosted by New York Kyle, Tough as Nails, is going to be interviewing Texas Tough. I'll tell you what I've been learning the last couple of years, man, is Texas, Hollywood, all over the United States, New York Kyle, Australia, all these men and women are coming up. They are so tough. They are struggling and pushing to make this discovery happen. Texas came up this year. It was his second year. You're going to see Logan talk today. Man, this dude is tough. He hiked up Strawberry Mountain, which seems like something you'd say is no problem. This year, he smoked radium right up to the top, spent the night up there. You want to say a lot of things about what's going on with this discovery, but we are out there working for it, boots on the ground, bleeding, dragging, pushing, suffering up to altitude, working for this discovery. Here's Texas Tough, nothing but respect. Logan being interviewed on the Discovering Bigfoot podcast. Here we go, Kyle. Let's have a great show.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Discovering Bigfoot podcast. My name is Kyle, and for today's show, we have Logan, and he is one of Todd Standing's expeditioners along with me. So, Logan, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate you taking your busy schedule and opening it up for me. So let's get into it. So how's Bigfoot been in your life? How did it come into your life? Was it something that you saw on TV when you were a kid, or?
I saw the normal stuff when I was a kid. I wasn't super into it, Harry and the Hendersons, stuff like that. I always figured it was real, but, it's just like, I've always lived in Texas. So I'm just like, that's in the woods far from me. Right. But my dad always listened to Coast to Coast, which is kind of, where a lot of the paranormal, ET, Bigfoot stuff kind of came from to begin with, as far as, if you're listening to the radio. So I kind of got into listening to that, since like 2000, 2010, and always really enjoyed listening to the Bigfoot stories and all the people on there talking about Bigfoot. So it just kind of piqued my interest to be, there are just so many crazy stories that people tell about interactions and everything else. So I got to thinking about it, and it's just kind of been like just really like a side interest to begin. I kind of describe myself as like armchair researcher, right? So where I live, it's kind of like desert here in Texas a bit, the ecosystem, right? So to me, it's like at least Central Texas is kind of like half desert to me. So I just figured it wasn't ever gonna happen here, but I like listening to the stories. And then I was listening to, I'll be walking my dog, listening to podcasts, and I listened to Todd. He was on Coast. Like I said, I listen to Coast a lot when I'm not doing anything. And I heard him on Coast talking about all of his experiences. And, at the end of his statement, he's like, if you don't believe me, come out and I'll show you. Right. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, no one's ever said that. All right, I'm gonna look into this guy. I'm like, I don't know. I never saw his documentary. This was like in 2019.
Okay.
Something like that. So I went and found his documentary and watched it, and was like, this guy's got amazing footage. Like, I don't understand. Is this fake, or is it like, I don't understand how he faked this. Right. Mm-hmm. So I was like, either this is the best fake I've ever seen, or this guy's legitimate. And I just don't know. Like, people just don't know who he is. So, I wasn't into the scene. Like, I never was into the BFRO or anything like that. So that's kind of what Todd kind of got me interested in it. Right. So I just hit him up and said, emailed him and said, hey, I'd like to come out, and waited a bit, and no response. And then I was like, okay. And then I finally got some response saying like he's got super busy, full schedule. I'm like, okay, well, can you put me on for next year then, maybe? Like put me on the back burner here. And then I think some stuff, happened, and he gave me a call and kind of did his thing that he does when trying to weed out people that are just not into it, right?
Right.
And we kind of connected pretty good and said, okay. So we ended up going out, let's see, was it 2021 in September, beginning of September. So that's kind of what started a lot of stuff for me, right? So just honestly, it was Todd watching his video, and then I started looking at all the other videos, besides Todd's, and all the other researchers trying to find stuff, and then listening to Sasquatch Chronicles, and then started listening to the Sasquatch Odyssey. Then I started watching the Bigfoot with Les Stroud, all of his stuff.
Right.
All the Todd was on there. I was like, what the heck, man? This guy's so it was just just kind of fell into place, honestly.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's more or less kind of what happened to me. But so let's talk about the documentary real quick, because everybody thinks their own thing about it, and I kind of want to get your opinion on what you thought of the documentary and the footage when you first saw it.
A few of them were really compelling to me. The one where he's in the snow and he gets hit by a log and he's looking at something in front of him. Not a lot of people talk about that, but that thing was massive. It looked like it was 5 feet. The shoulders were 5 feet from side to side, right? And it was so tall. And, after getting to know Todd and what he does, I know he couldn't have faked that.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. The whole apples getting taken and the sounds, it's to me, it's really hard to do that. Like, you got to have some pretty big balls. Go out in the middle of the woods, nobody with you, 2:00 in the morning, put out apples, record.
Right.
It's most 99% of the people would never do that, right? So, and then them taking it and all the sounds, the growls and I guess you would call them growls. I don't know how else to describe them. All those sounds along with it is pretty compelling. And then, the videos, I think most of them look pretty, really hard to fake if you really do deep analysis on them. The ones he calls Jake, for the kind of the up close one, right, where the bugs landing near his eye.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that one looks really real to me. Like, I don't know, again, it'd be really hard to put that together and fake that, right? And then I'm trying to think. I don't know. The most of it was just really compelling stuff, right? And the apples getting taken and the PhDs and everything else. I don't know. It's just it was really good evidence. I've never seen anyone do that much together, right? To put it all in one. And I know it was over time, right? He's had some of those videos for a bit. And he kind of collaborated, pushed it all together. But I did a bunch of research and I could never find anyone that would really show me that it was faked, right? This is obvious a fake for this reason, right? It was always just conjecture, oh yeah, that's a robot, right? That's a Muppet. I'm like, okay, so you're telling me this guy built a robot?
Right.
Come on, that's so far-fetched. That's anyway, and then you find all these things about his sister being a makeup artist. I ended up meeting his sister and when I went out with him, but I don't know. I just, if you even in Hollywood movies, their hair and makeup and special effects people, I've never seen anyone do that much detail in the face before, right?
Right.
So to me, it was just compelling, right? I wanted to go out with him just based off of that. And I was like, okay, so if this guy is faking it, I'll figure it out when I go out with him, right? I don't know him. I didn't really know what to expect. I really just wanted to see something for myself, hear something, see something. I've never been to Canada. I've always wanted to go to the mountains up there. So to me, it was win, 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 right? Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll see but I get to hang out and camp for a week. I get to look at the mountains. Hey, you know what? If I don't see anything, oh well, I got to spend a week in nature, right? So Yeah, that's my thought on the whole video. I think it's really compelling. Haven't really found anything that I can say that looks horrible, right? Even the one that the Jane one, the Ewok, people call it Ewok. If you listen to his explanation about how he had his camera and stuff, and then there's some videos where he has that like at normal speed. Most of the videos you see out there, like 10, I don't know what the frame rate is, but he slowed it down way. And then people are like, well, they're not blinking their eyes, but it's really only for like 10, 15 seconds at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if to me, you don't really have to blink your eyes in 10, 15 seconds if you're staring at something, right? So I don't really think that's good. Like, oh yeah, that it's some kind of weird Muppet. Like, I don't know. I don't go with that route. So I just, like I said, it's pretty compelling.
Right. And the way I looked at it too is if he did fake that, let's just say that the Jake footage, if he did fake that, first off, he'd be the best Hollywood film artist in the world. Because even today, even if he paid somebody to do it, there's so much crap on him about it that they would have came out. I mean, like, yeah, here it is. Boom. I did it for him. Here's the receipts. He paid for it. It's all fake. And it would have been cut dry. That's it. You can't fake something like that and not have, or even he had people reach out to him too and were like, hey, like, we want you to work on our movies. He's like, I don't even know how to paint. Like, I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
also from a physical standpoint with those two videos, the reason they're not blinking is because they're predators. How often do you see a mountain lion blink when it's staring at its prey? They have to be covert. They have to be basically not seen by their prey in order to eat. And I think that's the same way with the Sasquatches. They don't have to blink all that much because they're focused on something and they can't be seen. They're so stealthy. Why would they blink all the time? You would see that.
Yeah. I think you can't discredit it just based off the eyes not blinking on that one. I get how people think that one looks a little weird because I mean it does look weird if you compare it to the other videos, right? The face is kind of weird looking, right? But again, if you look at it, I couldn't do that. I couldn't. There's something online where there's a special effects guy. He did like a whole document about how this is how he did it, and this and this and this. But he was like he goes into detail about how he thought it looks like this and this and this. But I don't know. Like, I read the whole thing. It made me a little skeptical of that one, right? Just reading his stuff. And then I went back and read it again a few times. But a lot of that document that guy wrote, and I can't remember who it was, you can find it online on Google, I'm sure. But it was like comparing what all the gorillas or monkeys, like their facial features, and how this one doesn't look like any of this out. So it was like, half of it was just like nonsense to me, because it was like, okay, you're comparing this to apes and monkeys, but this isn't an ape or a monkey, right? Like, I don't know why they're trying to say this was like an ape descendant, right? Like, we don't really know that.
Yeah, we can't answer that.
So again, I think that guy was a little bit more credible because he tried to go into a lot of detail about how you could fake it, how he could fake it, right? But again, I still didn't find it all the way, and then it was just that one video. They didn't try to do all the rest of them, right? It was just that one. So to me, it was just like, okay, they haven't won me over yet, right? And I think Jeff Meldrum did a rebuttal to it. It's really hard to find this stuff online now, though. You only find the negative more than the positive, right?
Yeah.
So even Todd's websites, you can't even Google search them, right? They don't even pop up.
Yeah. Well, there was a bunch of crap that happened with all that too. But and also with just the comparison between Jake and Jane, the two videos we were just talking about, like you and me, my face looks weird compared to yours. We're both humans. I think it's just they have that differentiation. It's we're very sure that Jane was a female, obviously, and that's why she has that smaller face, a little bit smaller build, and just a different facial features. And I think that goes with all the Sasquatch that Todd is habituating with, because Jake doesn't look like his brother, His brother doesn't look like Red, which he has a new picture of Red that'll be released soon. And like look at Kubota. Kubota is completely different. The video we have of Kubota underneath the log, completely different from what Jake looks like. So I think it's just that. It's as simple as we don't look alike, they don't look alike.
Yeah, it's true. We all look different. Similar but different, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So when you went out with Todd, what happened? Did you have anything happen?
Yeah, so I've gone out with him twice since then, right? So the September expedition was a lot more eventful than the last one I went on. So I'd say there's about 4 things that happened on the first expedition.
That's awesome.
I will say I didn't see one, right? It would have been nice, but I did have some sort of interaction, right? So just getting into that. So his base camp, it's kind of middle of nowhere. There's stuff that's I don't know, miles away, right? But it's pretty much middle of nowhere in the Radium kind of mountain range, right? So we spent the first day just exploring. I've never been up there. I was up there with a guy named Craig, which I know you know Craig. It's the first time I met Craig. So first day was a lot of Todd explaining the ecosystem and the plant life and everything else and the animals and just a lot about the nature and stuff, right? He's kind of really big in the nature and he wants people to understand their surroundings, right? So, I got there really late the first night and we kind of just sat around the campfire and went to sleep because we were really tired. And then the next day we did the nature thing. But I want to say, and I have some notes written down, but I want to say that night, the next day, where it was about 9:30, we were talking around the campfire, and we kind of hear this weird, like a hoot sound, kind of sounded like an owl, but not really an owl. It was more directed towards us. You can tell where sound's coming from, right?
Yeah.
And it was probably, I want to say 50 yards from us, right? It was kind of, I try to replicate the sound, but I just butcher it, right? So I'll just put it that way. It kind of sounded like an owl, but it kind of didn't at the same time. It was a very weird sound, right? So that we kind of listened for it, and it happened twice. And we're like, okay, this is weird. So we'll just act like nothing's happening. We don't want to run over there or anything, right? See if anything happens, right? And then I'd say about 15 minutes after that, like I have my back kind of to the woods, like campers in front of me, and my back's to the woods behind me, right?
Yep.
So we're just sitting there talking, and then you just hear this, and I've never heard anything like it before. It was like a chirping sound, like chip, 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 like that, right? And I was like, "Are you guys hearing this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so it happened a few times. It was like chip, 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 and it sounded like it was 15 feet behind me, right? Of course, it's pitch black behind me. I don't really want to walk into the pitch black. I'm listening to it, but it was a super weird sound. And Todd was saying that he's probably heard that sound one time, and that his theory was it was like a juvenile infant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So super weird sound. Never heard it. We were like, okay, that's weird. So I mean, that night that was basically it, right? We were like, okay, nothing else happened, and went to sleep. And the next day we went and looked to see if we could find anything where those sounds were coming from. I think the ground behind us was probably not the best ground to actually look for tracks, especially if it's something like juvenile. We didn't see anything from the chirp. The weird owlish sound, Craig went back there exactly where we heard it, and he was like, yep, right here, there's prints. Right.
Really?
So there's actually, if anyone wants to go out there, there's a video. I think it's called something like researchers find 17-inch track, something on Todd's channel, and you can kind of see us where it was, right? But it was clear as day. There was 2 footprints. They were actually standing on this bush, like they had pushed the bush down. They were like on the side of this bush. It was a clear indent. I don't know. It's probably like 15-inch tracks. But if you put 2 feet above it, put your camera in the air, it was dead shot. You could see the campfire and everything, right? Right. Anyone that's 6 foot or below, they can't see it. Anyone that's 8 foot, yeah, you could definitely see it,
Wow.
right? So it was like directly where that sound came from. It was, definitely footprints, not shoe prints or boot prints. You could see the toes. You could see everything. It was a Bigfoot, right? Bigfoot, right? And so it was weird, right? That was kind of like, okay, I can't see anyone sitting out here in the woods doing that in their bare feet with huge feet and making weird sounds.
Right.
It's like, that's pretty compelling. And the next day we did Todd likes to put apples at a spot. He kind of showed us where all these prints were that led up to this hill, right?
Yep.
They were probably a lot clearer. I know I went out a little before you did, so they were pretty definite when I went out, and they slowly started, when I went out the second time, they were really hard to see, honestly. Right. But, we kind of did the whole apple thing, and when we were doing that, Todd was kind of giving his theories about, rock knocks over wood knocks, and maybe they're rocks more than wood, and he was telling Craig to hit that tree as hard as he can with a rock. And
Hurt your
was
hand.
Right. So he ended up doing it, right? And he's like, do it again. He did it twice, and he's like, yeah, that hurts, and it's not super loud. And while we're just sitting there waiting, talking, I'd say about 45 seconds later, you just hear like the biggest bang, bang right back, and it sounded like 5 times louder than what Craig did. And we're like,
Wow.
Okay, that was weird, and we could tell exactly what the direction was. Everything. It was kind of like, I'd say 200 yards from us. Kind of, I'm really bad where the sun is there. I'd say it was south that way, right? We know where it's from, right? But it's so to me that was very odd, right? For me to hear like super loud response, and this was just random, like. It's not like there's someone out in the woods like waiting for us to hit this tree. Even if they were someone was waiting for us to hit a tree, like they couldn't have heard it 200 yards away. Our sound would, like, the forest just takes all that sound and you can't hear it.
Right.
And it just wasn't loud enough. So again, like this is random. We don't have technology out there. We don't have walkie-talkies, Todd just kind of wakes up and does his morning stretches and takes his time, and we kind of just go with the flow. And he's kind of like, where you guys want to go? He doesn't like lead us anywhere really. You just kind of take it for what it is and go explore around the base camp, go look at everything, go look at the tree breaks, go look for prints. So this is just us saying, let's go up and look at the apples and do this, right? So again, timing to me is a lot, right? You can't have someone just sitting there waiting to do that. And it was just too loud to be, I don't know how you would replicate that sound, right? It just sounded so loud.
So what I want to touch base with you quick on with those 2 stories is, so what makes you think that the second noise you heard, the chirping noise, wasn't just a squirrel or something behind you?
It was dark. It was, like I said, the sun had gone down. I don't generally hear a lot of birds when the sun goes down, right? I know there's grouse all around there. We discovered a lot about grouse last time we were there, but I didn't ever hear any squirrels or birds at night, right? It was always just probably 9, 10 in the morning. That's when you hear them the most. And it didn't really sound like a bird or a squirrel. It was like I said, it was kind of like like that, right? It wasn't like a definite that's a bird, right? We could tell like more of a tweet or something, right?
Right.
But it just sounded really weird. If I could replicate it all the way, I would, but it was a very weird sound. And it was really close, right? Animals, birds and stuff, they're not going to try to get around a fire and get close to humans at night, right? Sounds like the dumbest thing any animal could do.
Right. So on the second story with the tree knock, on the rock, let's talk about Craig for a second. Craig's not a small dude. He's probably 6'1". What do you think? 180, 200 pounds?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Like, he's not a small dude. And how big was this rock?
A little bit bigger in your hand, right?
Okay. So we'll say 5-6 pounds.
Yeah.
So for a guy his size, taking that rock and hitting it probably as hard as he can without trying to hurt himself, you'd think that would make a definite sound in the woods that would echo.
Right.
Because like when you take another tree or a branch for say, and you do a wood knock, that echoes. A rock, not so much though. So
right.
There's no way that could have been a human back in there making a sound 5-10 times louder, further away, doing the same thing, because there's no one out there bigger than Craig, really. I mean, Todd's a little bit bigger, but you guys are all in one spot. There's nobody else out there that can make a sound like that with a rock.
Yeah, I'd say so. And it's, like I said, it's not close to where anyone would just be walking through the woods, right? It doesn't make sense. Like, yeah. It's pretty secluded.
Right. And when you come in off that trail, the only tire tracks you see are the bikes and Todd's car.
Right.
That's it. There's nobody that goes back there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, like I said, the possibility of some random person doing it, like it doesn't, it's like 0% chance. That's just my opinion.
Gotcha. So there was 2 other things that happened, right?
Yeah. So I want to say it was the next day we went and tried to find. So Todd, I don't know what it was. I think Todd likes to say, yeah, we're never going to find any evidence of that, right? It's like needle in a haystack.
Right.
So he said that about the Weird Al sound, and then Craig found the evidence for it, right? Like, yeah, see, we got good luck. And then we went up that hillside that's next to that road that comes in, kind of, we kind of went up that hill looking for evidence of whatever made that rock sound, knockback sound, or whatever it was. And again, that video I talked about, you can kind of see what we're talking about right here between me and you. But it was clear we found footprints going up the side of that hill, like just kind of scouring that whole place. I found at least 4 tracks going up that hill, and they were really far apart, inline, straight tracks, probably 15, 16 inches. And, we kind of walked it. Craig walked it. Like, people don't walk up hills going lunges, right? Nobody does that.
Yeah.
You'd have to do lunges to go up the hill. Doing that, it's just stupid. Like, no one's going to do that. And then there's a place where there's rocks missing in the ground, and then I will say Todd did find the rock, like probably 5 feet from the place where it was missing, right? And went and grabbed the rock, and we put it right where that rock was. You can tell it was basically picking up by something in place 5 feet away. It was probably a little bit smaller than the rock Craig had, but it was definitely something you could pick up and hit a tree with, especially something that probably has 2 sides. In theory, has probably twice the size of hands that we do, right? Mm-hmm. That wouldn't be a big deal. And that's, we did find some trees that kind of look like maybe they had hit with a rock, but it was kind of like, yeah, we're not going to go that far because I really can't tell, like, because couldn't replicate it. But I mean, we found basically, trace evidence of a response, right? To me, that was, and they were fresh tracks. It was someone freshly took that rock out of the ground. You could tell it was wet right there where it was gone. So it, did I see anything? No. Is it, I don't know, nothing. To me, there's not a lot of coincidences in life that would be from that location, coming exactly from where we heard it. And, I don't know, it's too big a coincidence for me to not be something, right?
Right.
So to me, it was pretty good evidence. And that's all I can say about it, right? All around there, there's tree breaks all up in there. Some of them are really old, some of them are newer-ish. But I mean, there's definitely evidence of stuff being up there in the past, like breaking trees, doing tree breaks.
So what do you think of the tree breaks? Do you think that there's some sort of sign or meaning behind them? And also, do you think that it's even Sasquatch that does it?
Um, I think it's possible that some of them could be natural. Uh, it just depends on the tree break. The really big ones, the really obvious ones that look like something grabbed it and pressurized it, I think those are definitely not humans. I think there's a lot of evidence for it being Sasquatch just based off of the area. Like you can go miles and miles and not see anything like that, and it's just around like a lot of his research areas. You see them everywhere, and they're sporadic, and sometimes you'll walk up on one you never even knew was there. 5 years, it's just too much woods to scour. But I think they're legitimate for the most part. I mean, there's some that are like questionable to me. Like, okay, yeah, maybe not. But there's just so many out there. It's too weird to not be something. I don't know I was telling Todd, I don't know that it has to be like for a reason, right? Maybe they just like doing it, right? I don't know that it's saying go this way or go that way, I mean, a lot of them point towards the trails, right?
Mhm.
So that could be something like, hey, maybe humans that way kind of a thing, right?
Mhm.
But I'm pretty sure they're smart enough to know that somebody's down there, right? They don't probably need a free break to know that.
Right. They don't need maps.
Right. So it could just be something they do for fun, right? They're in the woods. They're like, hey, look how strong I am. I'm going to break this tree. Right.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It could be a game to them for all I know. It could
Yeah.
be. I don't think we'll know until, you actually see them doing it for a reason. So I really don't know. I've seen other videos of people saying, these are just kind of like markers, right? Of like places they lead out from or go into, right?
Mhm.
They're kind of like just path markers. So that could be that. But again, I don't know if that has to have a reason. It's just, it is what it is. They're doing it. But I'll break tree when I'm walking in the woods. I'll break branches all the time for no reason, just because it looks fun. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm that limb, I'm gonna knock this one down with a stick. Like, you get bored, right?
Yeah. I know that the Native Americans used to do that too. In order to mark their trail back, they would bend a tree, and it wouldn't be anything like a 3-inch sapling. It would be, the top of a pine tree. They would just snap it over, and it was just very subtle little hints to themselves that they can find their way back. But like we just said, they know that area like the back of their hand. So I don't expect them to need a map.
Yeah. The ones that are like 8-10 inches, those trees that are like 6, 8, 10
Monster
inches thick,
trees.
those are pretty compelling. And then some of them are really high off the ground. Like, I don't know how that would happen.
Right.
There's one that's probably 30 feet from his trailer now that they did, I don't know when, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months ago at the most,
Mhm.
sometime in winter up there. And the thing is a monstrous, like, it's just a huge tree, right? And it's
Yeah.
pointing right towards the apple gifting kind of area. So it's like, yeah, you kind of take it for what it is. It could be saying, yep, keep bringing the apples, or, yeah, this way to,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very weird.
Now, did you notice anything on those tree breaks? Maybe like the bark was ripped off or something in certain spots, or were there any branches missing? Or what about the trees next to them? Because you and I both know that they're 7, 8 feet up in the air, most of these breaks, and you and I can't do that. Even at that high up, you'd have to bend the tree down and then have some sort of mechanism to snap it pressurized in that spot so that it didn't barber chair, but then you're bending the tree out of the ground. So at that height, you'd almost have to climb the tree. But I know, because I've seen them, there's no branches missing. So if you're a 700-pound animal and you're trying to climb a tree, you're going to break branches all the way up. You know, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it is definitely weird. The only thing I ever see is maybe when Todd's showing people, like maybe he's trying to do it with his hand on some of the ones that are already broken, right? Or something beside there, but I haven't seen anything as far as like evidence of bark off of there or something. It looks like somebody climbed the tree to do it. So the best thing we could come up with is they're getting on these shoulders and doing it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean that, or I don't know, maybe they're just super agile, can jump, boom, do it. I have no idea. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And I've gone as far as looking at the trees next to it, you know, maybe the bigger tree next to it is the one that they climbed up and just reached over and snapped it, you know, and sometimes there's just not that case. There's not a bigger tree around. And then the trees that are like the monster trees that are, you know, like you're saying, 6-10 inches thick, that are snapped off in the same pressure break. If that was snow load, all the other trees around would have been destroyed.
Right.
And there's dead saplings that are, you know, 2 inches right next to it that are completely untouched. You know, the pine needles that are dead are still on. If that was snow load, they would have been crushed. And same with all the other trees around it. So it just doesn't line up for snow load.
Yeah, it's definitely a mystery. I think that they are doing it, but I don't, like I said, I don't know why. It's really not a good reason, honestly, other than, hey, maybe it's fun to them, right?
I guess so.
That's my theory. I don't know. Todd tries to get real deep with it and say it's pointing toward the tracks or it's going this way, but I don't know. Maybe, again, I just think maybe they're just doing it for
Hey, I mean,
themselves, right?
Yeah, you could be 100% correct too. We really don't know. So let's talk about radium quick. And I know that there's 2 different radiums that we as the expeditioners talk about. There's the top of radium, and then there's radium, which is just the research area where his camper is and stuff. So you've been up to radium. Tell me about that hike. Tell me about it.
Sure. Even so, kind of getting to the bottom of this mountain that this is the mountain, if anyone's ever watched the videos that Survivorman went up, right? So that hike, I'd say it's like a moderate medium kind of thing. Like most people could probably do it. You know, some of the little hills are, you know, if you're not in good shape, it might be a little hard on some people, but it's not too bad. And it's kind of like a trail that's kind of somewhat maintained, I think, because I think you can follow that trail all the way to a lake, right? It's probably a 6-7 hour walk to some lake back there in the mountains. But you know, it's really, you know, that area is super beautiful. There's mountains everywhere. There's like a glacier river running through there. But the hike up to that spot it's hard. Like, just you got to cross. We had to cross the water, so we basically went to the water on my first expedition, and Todd was more or less like, yeah, I don't take a lot of people up there. It's a hard thing, you know. It's a little bit dangerous, you know. If you want to do it, maybe next time, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, challenge. I'll do that. So I kept bugging him about it. So and then Craig kind of kept bugging him about it. So we did it, right? So the second time we went out there, the water was pretty high. So we had to wade through the water a bit up to our thighs. The water is like 30, I don't know what it is, 37 degrees, somewhere in the 30s. It was pretty cold, right? So just getting across the little river to get to the spot to start climbing. I don't know if when you went up, if you had to do that, you could probably walk on the logs to get over, but we had to get in the water this time. There wasn't a good way over. You know, just the first stint of it is kind of hands and feet going up. And you're like, okay, hopefully this isn't like this the whole time. It's gonna sneak. But you know, hands and feet for, I don't know, 30 yards or so. Mm-hmm. And then it's all kind of steep uphill, right? You're walking, you're taking breaks every 5 minutes, you know, making your legs not be so full of acid. It hurts. You're carrying a backpack that's 20-30 pounds, you know. it's a lot of extra weight. I'm from Texas. I'm not used to walking up mountains, right?
Mhm.
I was up for the challenge, but I'm still not used to the steep grades. So it was harder for me. But I don't know if anyone ever looks at Todd. You can see his face, but man, the guy's built. You can tell he's walking these mountains. He's got huge legs, huge calves. He's built like a football player, right? So it's probably a little easier for him, but just getting up to like, it probably took an hour just to get up halfway to the snow chute, an hour to get to the river, an hour to get up to the snow chute. And we were making pretty good time, right? And once you pass the snow chute and start climbing, it's all grabbing trees basically in these bushes that are on the side of this mountain, because you can't really get, unless you have some claw stuff, some mountain hiking stuff, like you're grabbing trees the rest of the way, going up the side of this mountain. And once you keep going and going, it just gets steeper and steeper, right? So it was a challenge. It was hard. I don't know why any human would do it other than just wanting to do it. And I don't know why Sasquatch would do that, but Todd found that spot, and he's had a lot of interactions up there, and Survivor Man had the weird stuff happen up there. So to me, it'd probably take, a fairly healthy, athletic human 4 hours to get up there, right? Maybe less if you're super athletic. So I don't know how long it takes those guys. If they just scale that like it's nothing, I have no idea. Maybe they take some 30 minutes. But it's a hard hike. It was hard. And the last bit of it, you're basically just, I was putting my fingers into the ground trying to get traction, right? Like I was pretty much almost vertical at some points, like trying to get traction, trying to keep my backpack from not being too much weight on the top. It's kind of wobbly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was rough. Like getting up there was definitely worth it. It was beautiful. Like, and then when you get up there, if you look at the videos, it doesn't really can't really tell the steepness, but it's at an angle, probably 65-degree angle. Right. So when you're sleeping up there at 65-degree angle sleeping, right? So you're kind of sliding a little bit. You kind of keep having to adjust yourself. But yeah, it was definitely a life experience getting up there and sitting up there and being there. And right when we got up there was this scat off the side of this mountain that was just sitting there, and it looked like really weird scat, honestly. Looked I don't know, it looked a little human, but it was twice as much as far as a normal person would do, and it had a bunch of weird fibers in it. And I don't know anyone that would just defecate off the side of this cliff, because if you look down over it, it's I don't know how far, probably 3,000 feet down, right? Something like that.
Wow.
So I don't know. It was really weird. Keaton, the guy, Keaton, my nephew, I went out with him and Craig up to the mountain, and Todd, he's the one that found it. I said, "Hey, Todd, look at this." And then, he was, Todd, he'll just sit there and get a stick and dig through it and look at it, right? He didn't care. He's like, "Yeah, that's super weird." I think he put it on some of his stuff, but I don't know, that it didn't look like anything like bear or anything like that. Or I know he said he's not super familiar with like mountain goat, but I don't see that being mountain goat. It was,
No.
It looked really weird, from my opinion. So that was weird getting up there and seeing that. But yeah, the mountain climb was pretty awesome.
That's awesome. That's cool to hear. I never really got the breakdown for the actual radium hike, so it's good to hear someone who's actually been up it and experienced it firsthand to tell everybody about that. And I haven't gone up there yet. I got about halfway, but we got snowed out. So this year I'm going up there for sure. And I'm not a fan of heights, so this is going to be a challenge for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, if you don't look back, it's fine, right?
Right. Yeah. If you don't look
You
down.
keep going forward, and it's fine. It's just, like I said, it's pretty vertical when you get pretty close to the top. Like you kind of have to really get your footing right. I think if you fell a few feet down, it'd be fine because you'd have other trees to grab onto, but it is still a little daunting
Yeah.
from my perspective.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome to have that in the back of my head for when I go up there. For anybody out there who wants to go on an expedition, all you got to do is either message me or message Todd. But yeah. Also, do you have any pictures while you're up there?
Oh yeah. I think I put some on. I put a video and a few pictures on the Facebook group for Discovering Bigfoot. So they're out there. I don't know. You might have to scroll down a little bit now. I don't know how much content's been there since a month ago, but
Yeah.
it's out there from about end of June.
Awesome. So I recently just started an Instagram page for the podcast. So if you wouldn't mind sending me a few of those pictures, I'll post them up on the page.
Yeah, I got a bunch of pictures. I can send them to you.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, I think that's about done for today. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. And I hope we'll get you on the show another time after your next expedition. Hopefully you get a sighting.
Yeah, for sure. I'm waiting.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Bye.